today I'm going to be trying to build the perfect electric type team in Pokemon. On paper, it sounds incredibly simple. Electric types have tons of speed, strong special attack, and there's threats like Iron Hands, Regieleki, and Zapdos to help carry the weight. But electric type Pokemon have some serious problems. For example, they only hit one type super effectively, being water, and they struggle against ground types. As well as that, they barely have any good defensive options, no Intimidate, and there's also no real hazard control. And don't even get me started on their lack of type coverage. You're basically stuck to only using electric type moves. But still, I'm going to be trying to make it work. Let's see how far I can push this type before it all falls apart. Or maybe, just maybe, I'm able to crack the code. Alright, here's how this is going to work. I'm going to start with 3 electric type Pokemon, and then I'm going to play 10 games. After that, I have to eliminate the weakest link no matter what, and bring in a replacement. Play another 10 games, and repeat. I'll keep rebuilding, adapting, and improving until I finally can win 10 games in a row. It sounds simple, but with all the flaws in the electric type, this might be incredibly difficult, and get ready for a potentially very long video. Without further ado, let's take a look at our first 3 Pokemon. Alright guys, allow me to introduce you to our first 3 electric type Pokemon. First, we got Raichu with the Magnet to boost electric type moves. For the moveset, I went with Thunder, an extraordinarily powerful electric type move. Iron Tail for a little bit of move diversity. We got a Steel type move in there. Thunder Wave, because that's one of the big advantages of electric type Pokemon, is the ability to paralyze, and we're definitely going to play into that. Then we got Play Rough for Fairy and a move priority. The next Pokemon we got here is Bellybolt with the leftovers. He's going to be our bulky setup guy. We got Thunder Wave once again. Acid Spray is an incredibly interesting move. It doesn't do a ton of damage, but it does lower the opponent's special defense pretty greatly. We got Mud Shot for a ground type, and then Electric Train is a move that will benefit everybody as it lasts 5 turns, I believe, and boosts all electric type moves, which is obviously very relevant. The next Pokemon we got here is Zapdos with the Focus Sash. Learn from experience that the Focus Sash is very important on Zapdos. The moveset we're going with, Thunder Wave, Giga Impact, Light Screen, and Zap Cannon. With that being said, let's get into our first game and test out these 3. Alright guys, here we go into our very first game with Raichu, Bellybolt, and Zapdos. As you can see, the opponent starts with the Dragonite and we go Bellybolt. I try to get my Electric Train down, but the Dragonite uses Skill Shot. That brings my Bellybolt down to very low HP, and I do get the Electric Train down, but unfortunately, this is going to be the end of my Bellybolt because I am not going to outspeed this Dragonite, and I am definitely not surviving another Skill Shot. So that gives the opponent 3 Pokemon to my 2 Pokemon. I'm going to bring out Zapdos here. The good news is I did get the Electric Train down. So when I go for a Zap Cannon here, it could do significantly more damage. But my Zapdos might die here to a Skill Shot, but it doesn't. We survive with 3 health, which is absolutely wild and a blessing. We get the Paralyze off on the Dragonite, but it didn't do enough damage. So I'm like, you know what, we got to try Giga Impact. We do it, and Dragonite is gone like that. Next up, my opponent here has a Meowscarada that is going to use Play Rough, so it's going to turn to Fairy type and get move priority on Zapdos, unfortunately. That means we only have Raichu left. Luckily, Iron Tail is going to be an effective move, but the opponent uses Flower Trick and brings my Raichu down to less than half health. And unfortunately, I'm not going to outspeed the Meowscarada, and that is going to be the end of the first game. I unfortunately lost. This team kind of sucks, but we'll figure it out. All right, I'm now starting to think that Zapdos, Raichu, and Bellybolt are probably the worst combination of Pokemon anyone has ever used, ever. Because, man, these things are awful. I go out there, I try to set up, and I just get torched by whatever the opponent is. So we're going to introduce a very powerful Pokemon to the team right now to try and fix things. And that Pokemon is going to be no other than Iron Hands, an extremely powerful, very meta Pokemon. As you can see, I gave Iron Hands for now the Assault Vest. If we do end up getting rid of Bellybolt, I will consider giving it leftovers in the future. As for the moveset, we got Drain Punch, Protect, Ice Punch, and Earthquake. This thing is going to rock opposing teams. As you can see, it doesn't know a single electric move. The only reason why I did that is because my other 2 Pokemon are also going to be electric, and this Pokemon Iron Hands does have the potential to really cover a lot of categories. So we're going to be good against electrics, we're going to be good against dragons, and Drain Punch obviously is going to give us a ton of health. With this newly modified team, I believe that we're going to sub out Raichu. To be honest with you, It's just not doing it. It's just not fast enough. And the moveset is not strong enough to consider keeping it here. I think Iron Hands is going to be an incredible replacement. Let's see how it does. All right, guys, here we go into our very first game with the Zapdos, Bellibolt, and Iron Hands. As you can see, we put out the Iron Hands here to start the battle. And to be honest with you, I don't remember why I was taking so long to press battle. But when I eventually do, I go for a Drain Punch, and it's incredibly effective against this Pokemon. But I take a little bit of damage, Rocky Helmet, and then I fall for the taunt. But one more Drain Punch later, his first Pokemon is gone. And I'll tell you, Iron Hands is looking like an incredible addition to the team. He sends out Caridian here, and man, I'm not going to lie, this scares me a little. Caridian and Meridian are some of the hardest Pokemon that I've had to battle. So I go for Ice Punch, and you know what? It does pretty good damage, about a third, but I regret not going for Drain Punch. Because if I use Drain Punch, even though it was only effective, not super effective, it might have been able to get me enough health to survive that hit. Now, looking towards this Caridian here, it uses Collision Course and just shatters Bellibolt to a very low amount of health. I go for a Thunder Wave, and we are able to paralyze the Caridian. This could be a pretty big moment in this battle if I can somehow take this down while still having Zapdos. But it uses Flame Charge, and Bellibolt, unfortunately, is gone, and things are not looking great. Zapdos is a Pokemon that's been pretty weak so far, if we have to be very critical of it. It's going to use Flare Blitz and only survive due to the Focus Slash, and unfortunately, this is basically the end. It avoids my Giga Impact somehow. And while we put our hopes and dreams of this entire match on terraforming Zapdos and landing a Zap Cannon. Now, Zap Cannon isn't even really guaranteed to take it down, but if anything could, it was that. But unfortunately, we lose to a Flame Charge. But that's okay, because that was only game 1. Let's go into game 2 and see what we can do. So in game 2, we once again go ahead and start with Iron Hands against this Avalugg. Seeing Drain Punch is a super effective move, we go for it, and we take down over half its health, which is a pretty good return from one attack. So once again, we're looking for another Drain Punch. We get it off, and that is his first Pokemon down. Now we got, a good old Abomasnow here. We know quite a bit about this from our, if you've seen the ice version of this video. Drain Punch does about half its health, and now we're really getting into a rhythm with Iron Hand. This is what this Pokemon is supposed to be. Just drain punching its way through opponent teams. Now, this game unfortunately did get cut a little bit short because the battle was canceled when I was about to land an Earthquake and win for real. Alright guys, going into our third game, I once again start with Iron Hands against the opponent's Clodsire, and we go for an Earthquake, as that's going to be a super effective move, and boom, his first Pokemon is wiped out as easy as can be. Next, Sivleon, the Fairy-type Eevee evolution, which these Eevee evolutions have been causing me a lot of problems recently. I go for an Ice Punch. It does pretty good damage, but I decide it's time to take Iron Hands out and go for Bellibolt here. I go for Acid Spray, a move that will also, there you go, sharply lower its special defense. And then a Thunder Wave. Let's see if we can paralyze this thing. And it hits. I'm poisoned, I believe. Oh no, I'm not poisoned. I was wrong. I get my leftovers, I paralyze it, and we bring back Bellibolt and send out Zapdos. Let's see if Zapdos can finally get his. So we go for a Zap Cannon, but it's avoided the attack. Now we just are getting Draining Kissed to death right now. I go for a Giga Impact. It takes out almost half the health, not quite, but I can't even move for a turn, so what's even the point? I'm just getting Draining Kissed and Shadow Balled, and well, there goes Zapdos. Now, let's hope Iron Hands can finally pull something together with an Earthquake, and, it leaves it at very low health, but it's just running down my entire team at this point. And it seems like nothing I can do. We do an Earthquake, and we finally take it out. Now we got the good old Annihilate that causes me problems at every corner. I believe Ice Punch is an effective move, but there's no point. You should just be going for Drain Punches on this thing, which I do right here, and boom, it takes a quarter of the health, and I gain a little bit back. I use another Protect because, well, I'm just trying to last it out, hoping just maybe something, please, just anything will happen to help me out here. But it doesn't, and now we just got Bellibolt left, and the game is over at this point. That's the end of our third game. We lost. Alright guys, so I just completed another set of 10 games with our team, and well, it's definitely time to make some changes. In my last 10 games, I went 3-7, which is awful, but hey, it's a step up from last time going 0-10, right? So I feel like the main problem with this team right now is it simply doesn't have enough offensive firepower. I think Iron Hands has been an amazing addition. I feel like Iron Hands is the only Pokemon that really contributes. I feel like the games where I won, Iron Hands was able to take out 2 or all of the opponent's Pokemon, and Zapdos and Bellibolt just had to try and get 1 at the same time, together. But this is definitely not going to be sustainable if we want to go 10-0. So I'm going to look to replace Bellibolt, and let's take a look at the Pokemon I've chosen to replace him. So the Pokemon I've chosen to replace Bellibolt is, well, Magnezone. Now, this is kind of an interesting decision. I decided to go ahead and put the Assault Vest on because I want this thing to be pretty bulky, to be honest with you. As for the moveset, you can tell I have one thing in mind, and that is straight power. We got Thunderbolt, Flash Cannon, and Hyper Beam, as well as Iron Defense to balance it out a little bit, you know? We are going to throw a Magnezone, use Iron Defense, and then we're going to really go to town with some of these offensive moves. Comparing this moveset to Bellibolt's, it's very, very clear that Magnezone will hopefully do significantly more damage. So let's hop into our games and let's honestly hope and pray that Magnezone helps, because man, I can't do this much longer, man. Alright, here we go into our first game with what I hope is a highly offensive trio. We start out with Magnezone, something a little bit different, because why not? I go for an Iron Defense, but it doesn't work because I'm an idiot and I have the Assault Vest on this thing. And well, it would have died, but since its ability is basically Focus Sash, we survived the day. We bring down the Annihilate down to under half health, which is pretty good. If I went for that at the start, things would look entirely different in this game. So we try to follow it up. Let's bring out Zapdos, and let's look to take out this first Pokemon. So we go for a Zap Cannon here, and well, the Annihilate uses Raging Fist and brings me down to 45, and now we can finally, hopefully, land our Zap Cannon. Oh, another Raging Fist. Good lord. There goes Zapdos. We're down to 3-1 right now in the Pokemon count. I bring out Iron Hands. Let's avenge the other two. Why not? But, welp, I accidentally hit Drain Punch, a move that literally has no effect on the Annihilate. So that is a lot of fun. But since it Terra to fighting, I think that actually will make Drain Punch do damage. And it does. We take down the Annihilate. Thank God he didn't just sweep the team with that thing. Annihilate is an incredibly powerful Pokemon from what I've seen in these games so far. And when I do a fighting team, that's a Pokemon I'm excited to use. But he's got a toxicity here. Sorry for the pronunciation. We go for an Earthquake, and well, we just take it out. Now all of a sudden, we're in a 1v1 to potentially win this game. This is a massive turnaround from where we were, and it's all on the back of Iron Hands if we're being real. He's got Crocodile here, the, one below Skeldridge, and well, we take it out and win our first game. Let's go. That's what I want to see from our offensive threat team. Let's see how game 2 goes. All right, guys, going into game 2, the opponent starts with this Whimsicott here, a nice shiny Whimsicott. Very interesting, actually. We go for Thunder Wave. Let's paralyze this thing. Let's try and cripple it. That's the mentality that I have now. Let's send out Zapdos and Thunder Wave off the rip every single time. And well, that's all fun and games until the Whimsicott uses Encore, and then I can only use Thunder Wave. I'm like, well, you know what? There's no point in using Thunder Wave a bunch of times. Let's bring out Magnezone, and let's see if we can do some damage on this thing. So I go for a Flash Cannon here, and bam, extremely effective. The Whimsicott only has a little bit of hair of health left, which is truly incredible. As well as being paralyzed, a second Flash Cannon takes care of the first Pokemon. See, that's what we need to do. The setup by Zapdos and the offense by Magnezone. Now, this is a Pokemon that I truly, truly fear. I don't even know the name of it, and it's a title Pokemon, Man of Sword. It's a Pokemon that I can get if I ever fully finish the game. It tears to ground type, and that is a serious problem for my entire team. Once again, Magnezone's ability coming up pretty clutch here, giving us 1 health and a dream to get a Flash Cannon off and do maybe a quarter of its health max. Well, there goes our Magnezone. But we still got Iron Hands and Zapdos on the good side of things, right? So I send out Iron Hands here. We got that Quark Drive going, baby. And we are going to go for a Ice Punch. Terra Blast, though, unfortunately, ruins everything. And there goes Iron Hands. But you know what? I kind of trust Zapdos. It did some pretty crazy things. I go for a Giga Impact. Behemoth Blade brings me down to under half health. And Giga Drain does probably about a third of it. It's not bad. But there goes Zapdos. Unfortunately, you can't win them all. We lost game 2. But we can still make this 2 out of 3 for the games that we're going to watch here for this set of 10. We got a Lugia. That's pretty impressive. Honestly, I can Thunder Wave this thing. Oh, wait. Terra Ground. Why is everybody Terra Ground? It makes it truly difficult. It's using Ice Beam as a Terra Ground against an all-electric team. Can they just have any kind of mercy on me? With Zapdos already out of the fight, I opt to put in Iron Hands here. We go for a nice old Ice Punch because it's super effective, but we don't even get it off really because, you know, Earth Power brings Iron Hands down to 19 out of 231 health, and, well, with an Ice Beam to finish it off, there goes Iron Hands. Magnezone, though, our offensive threat, makes him pull out his Lugia. And, well, our Flash Cannon does substantial damage to this Elephanty. Now, I'm sorry, I don't know the name of it. But if we get its defense to fall, another Flash Cannon, and boom, that's one Pokemon down. We didn't get swept, and that's the kind of victory we're after here. I go for a Thunderbolt, which should be incredibly powerful, but it uses Encore and stops me from doing that and uses Moonblast. Alright guys, so I just finished my next set of 10 games using the team of Iron Hands, Zapdos, and Magnezone, and let me tell you, I'm miserable. I went 4-6, and it was a complete disaster. It just felt like absolutely nothing would work. So this time, we're going to do a pretty big switch up to the team, and I think Zapdos needs to go. Magnezone did have some moments where it did help, especially with moves like Flash Cannon. But Zapdos feels completely useless. The only thing that keeps it alive past the first attack phase that it has is literally the Focus Sash. So let's see what we're going to do to the team now. Alright guys, so join me in saying thank you to Zapdos for all your hard work and, you know what, making it this far. But let's take a look at its replacement. It's going to be Pinkurition right here with the Focus Sash. Now, I was a little skeptical of this Pokemon, but its base stats are very high, 423 total. So I think there's some real reason to believe this thing could be a legit Pokemon on this team. Let's take a look at the moveset. So for the moveset, we're going with Hydro Pump, Toxic Spikes, Protect, and Rest. Now, I think the game plan is very self-explanatory here. You want to put this thing out, you want to get your Toxic Spikes out immediately, survive a hit with maybe the Focus Sash, see if you can't get a Rest, and then Protect a little bit and mix it up with Protect and Rest while the Toxic Spikes do their thing, and if you have the opportunity, go for a Hydro Pump. That's sort of the game plan with this thing, but so let's see how well it does in our very first game. Alright guys, here we go into our very first game with Pinkurition on this team. We go out to start with it immediately, and I do the good old Toxic Spikes. Now the Annihilate uses Final Gambit, which kills itself, but I survive because of Focus Sash. So we're already up 3-2 in this one. This is going to be an interesting battle throughout the rest. Now this is a guy who doesn't make up his mind very quick, and you're going to see that through these long connecting screens. It's kind of funny, but at the same time, I don't know, maybe he was just trying to get me to leave by, you know, not doing anything too quickly. That, or he literally lives in Asia, and the server time is just absolutely insane. So his Flutter Mane comes out next, and it's poisoned, uses Moonblast, and takes me out. Now, I decide to go with Magnezone here because if he's to use Moonshot again, it's really not going to do a ton of damage. And we're going to go and try to get a Flash Cannon off. Yes, he only does about a quarter when Flash Cannon drains about half of Flutter Mane's health. And the poison takes away another little bit, making it very, very close to one shot. I go for a Thunderbolt here just for 100% accuracy. And boom, there goes the Flutter Mane. We are now up 2-1 here, but the Magnezone feeling pretty damaged. But it's time for this guy to take his time with another long connecting screen. but it's okay. It gives me time to game plan. Maybe I go for an Iron Defense, you know? Maybe I go for a Giga Impact that's not even on this Pokemon. Okay, there we go. Thunderbolt. It uses Sucker Punch, takes out Magnezone, and this is looking like it's going to be a pretty easy end to the game. If I just send out Iron Hands here and we go for a Drain Punch, this will not even be close. Sucker Punch does nothing, and boom, a Drain Punch just wipes his final Pokemon, and we take the first game in the Pink Urchin era. Let's go. Alright guys, here we go into game 2 with the Pink Urchin team. We go with Pink Urchin right away to face the opponent's Caridian. Now either here, I'm going to either go for Hydro Pump or I'm going to play it safe with Toxic Spikes. It depends if I want to get a little bit frisky here. But we're going to play it safe and just go for Toxic Spikes. We survived the collision course, thank God to our Focus Sash that we have on this Pokemon. And well, I use Protect just to lengthen this battle out a little bit. The Caridian goes for a Flare Blitz. Obviously, I survive because of my Protect. And I try to sneak in a Rest, but that's not going to happen. That was mainly if, you know, what if Caridian misses? Maybe I can get a Rest in. But, you know what? It didn't work, so that's okay. I sent out Iron Hands because we need a big boy to take on a big boy here. And I'm going to go for an Ice Punch because that's a super effective move. The Caridian goes for a Giga Impact, and it takes out over half my health. I use a Protect on a very unintelligent round here because I could have got a free attack off because the Caridian will have to recharge from the Giga Impact. I remember that the second time, and I go for another Drain Punch here, and we are able to take out the Caridian, which is pretty epic because, you know what? We put out Iron Hands for that purpose, and it succeeded its goal. But the road ahead does not get easier with Chien-Pao. This is an incredibly powerful Pokemon, high speed, high attack ice type. If you saw my last video or any of my other videos with this Pokemon, you'll know it is incredibly powerful. I go for a Drain Punch, but it gets its Icicle Crash off first and unfortunately takes out my Iron Hands. This leaves me with Magnezone. Now, Magnezone can't be one-shot. Remember that. So that's some guaranteed damage with Flash Cannon here that we are going to take it out, and boom, there goes the Chien-Pao. 27 health remaining on Magnezone. If I have any hope at this, I'm going to have to outspeed Meowscarada, which, to be honest with you guys, I don't think is going to happen, especially when it uses Foul Play. Unfortunately, we lost our second game. All right, guys, here we go into our third game with the team of Iron Hands, Magnezone, and Pink Urchin. So I'm not starting with Pink Urchin in this game. We're doing it a little bit different. I'm going into Iron Hands right away. As you can see, the boosted energy gives me my Cork Drive, increasing my attack, and I go for an Earthquake off the rip on the Slowking. It does about a third of the health, but unfortunately, it's able to do about 2/3 of mine, bringing me down to 92 HP. I use Protect here to try to throw him off his rhythm a little bit, but that's something I'm going to take a heavy look at after this game. I'm going to really analyze this team and realize maybe, you know, boosted energy isn't the right way of doing this, because part of me wants to put leftovers on Iron Hands, but for now, that's not what we have, and Iron Hands just fainted to the Slowking. The next Pokemon up here is gonna be Magnezone. And man, Magnezone has been a Pokemon I have just really enjoyed having on this team. I think this is an extremely strong moveset. I would say my only critique is I haven't really ever used Iron Defense, mainly just because it's a situational thing, right? Normally, if you want to start with a Pokemon, you can use a stat boost move right away and get away with it, but I wasn't able to do that ever because I always start with Pink Urchin or Iron Hands. Unfortunately, Skeldridge brings Magnezone down to only 3 health, but hey, I'm able to get it down to 3 before I go down to its Flamethrower. So I will happily take that, but unfortunately, all we got left is Pink Urchin. But fortunately, we got a little move called Hydro Pump that, you know, you might have heard of. And on fire types, it's often pretty effective. And there we go, we take care of the Skeldridge, meaning he only has 1 Pokemon left. Unfortunately, that has to be Terrapagos, one of the most powerful Pokemon currently to play with online, and it uses Earth Power, and unfortunately, that ends our run here. Let's see how we can modify the team. Alright guys, so I just completed playing a 10-game series using Pink Urchin, Magnezone, and Iron Hands. And I have to tell you, this is the best this team has been so far. I went 6-4, which is pretty incredible. That finally, after 25 minutes in this video, we have finally gone positive in a 10-game set using only Electric-type Pokemon. My God, this has been painful, but we got here. So the way this team operated was I would always start with Pink Urchin and try to go for those toxic spikes. After toxic spikes were deployed, I would then try to get a hydro pump off or not before Pink Urchin would eventually faint. Then I would get Iron Hands in play and Magnezone and just attack downhill, really. And if the matchups were correct, due to luck, because I'm only using Electric type, then I oftentimes would simply win the battle. With that being said, let's take a look at the next move that I'm going to make on this team. All right, let's take a look at the changes on this team. A lot of them are extremely drastic. So first of all, Magnezone is gone, and we are replacing Magnezone with Raikou. As you can see, I took the Assault Vest from Magnezone and put it on Raikou. For the moveset, we're going with Calm Mind, Thunderbolt, Shadow Ball, and Extreme Speed. Extreme Speed is going to be the only priority move on this team, so it's going to be super beneficial. Shadow Ball, great for move diversity. Thunderbolt, strong electric type move, and Calm Mind, so we can beef this thing up in combat. So we're gonna keep Pink Urchin, and we're gonna go with the same game plan, except we did change up the moveset of good old Iron Hands. So I know we're not gonna fully be able to utilize the ability on Iron Hands anymore all the time, but I really wanted to go for leftovers here because that gives more benefit to using Protect and Drain Punch. We can make this thing a lifesteal beast. It can stay alive forever. So with Protect, Drain Punch, and Leftovers, this is going to be an incredibly difficult Pokemon to take out. In addition, I gave Iron Hands Sword Dance to be able to boost the attack. We're going to be a Iron Hands carry kind of team. Everything is built around Iron Hands. Raikou is a supplement to Iron Hands. So is Pink Urchin. With that being said, let's get into these games. To be honest with you guys, I could not be more excited going into this next set of games. I feel like we currently have the absolute best team at our disposal. And what an interesting start here, going for the Toxic Spikes on the Blaziken when I could have opted for a Hydro Pump and got a free one off on an extremely powerful Pokemon. And well, that's the reason why I did it right there, because I had that Focus Sash knowing that I could then bring the Blaziken down to an extremely low amount of health. So, and the Toxic Spikes will definitely be more helpful later on. Now, to be honest with you guys, 2020 vision, I would not have gone Iron Hands here. I wish I went back Raikou and used Extreme Speed, because that would have been a very free trade there on the Blaziken, and we would have still had two Pokemon at full health. Because as I remember this game, I do not think that my Iron Hands is going to outspeed a Blaziken. I'm not crazy. So I go for the Terra, and then I use Drain Punch, and boom, I guess I outspeed it because the Blaziken's move fails. So the next Pokemon he brings out is going to be a nice old Iron Valiant, which is, I think, an extremely powerful Pokemon, but I've never really ran into them. So maybe I'm a little dumb, but I'm feeling pretty confident when I go for this Ice Punch, but the battle's canceled. Hey, and we win. I'll take that. Alright guys, here we go into Game 2. Our opponent is starting with a Garchomp, and I once again go with Pink Urchin to guarantee I can get those Toxic Spikes down. And man, it is lucky that I have Focus Sash on, because that Earth Power would have absolutely rocked my world, and the second one does. So my next Pokemon I'm going to put out here is Iron Hands. And unfortunately, looking back at it with 2020 hindsight, I did mess this up royally. I should have terraformed and went to fighting type, because that way these ground type moves would do significantly less if I didn't have that electric overhang that, you know, I'm dealing with now. The Earth Power maybe would have did half of that damage, but well, at least his Garchomp is pretty weak now, and I can use a Protect, saving me from the Earth Power and giving me back a little bit of health through Leftovers. Now, the Garchomp is so weak that I really just have to get one attack off on it. But that attack will not be coming from Iron Hands, as it just faints to another Earth Power. But luckily, we got a little move on Raikou called Extreme Speed that will take out the Garchomp with literally no problems. Now it's a 1v2. Can Raikou win? Let's see. So we got the opponent's Gyarados coming in. Easy KO here with Thunderbolt. Now we're down to a 1v1. We are looking at Raikou versus Meowscarada. Now, the only problem with this is, well, finally my Toxic Spikes are hitting, so that's great. You know, that's a great benefit, but I can't really use Thunderbolt or Shadow Ball. I'm just kind of stuck with using Extreme Speed over and over again. and neither of us are really doing any damage to each other. We're just having to fight it out like this. But unfortunately, the flower trick does take significant damage and give it to me. But the extreme speed brings him down to about a third health, and I avoid an attack, plus poison, and man, we're getting pretty close. And if we were able to wait one more turn, we would have won this game. That is absolutely insane that we lost. I'm sad about that. But luckily, in our next game, we get a rematch against the exact same guy. And look at that. It's his Meowscarada once again off the rip. I go for Toxic Spikes. Unfortunately, I can't. He just KOs my Pink Urchin without it really being able to do anything, which is the worst case scenario. But I get out Iron Hands, we Drain Punch it down to very low HP, get all the health back and leftovers, and man, this thing is getting fed. Another Drain Punch, Meowscarada gone, and Iron Hands is really building up some steam here. We go for Protect, get a little bit more leftovers, avoid the Earth Power, and this is when I realized my mistake from last game. I'm going to Terrestrialize and go for an Ice Punch. And well, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a very good strategy. The Earth Power doesn't do a lot at all to me. I basically get it all back with leftovers. Plus, I'm able to use Ice Punch. I can still use Protect to avoid the dig 2 times in a row. I'm very lucky for that, not going to lie. But it's so low, I go for a Drain Punch. Why not get a little bit of health? And look at that. We beat the Garchomp very effectively this time. Now we're just stuck with the Gyarados. And at this point, I'm like, you know what? We got the Raikou with Thunderbolt. We can take care of this thing just like last time. But I'm going to suck everything I can out of this thing. I'm just going to keep rocking it with Drain Punches over and over and over. Using Protect, getting my leftovers over and over and over. And that is really the mentality this team is getting. It is just becoming very Iron Hands heavy. Regen health, play slow, be bulky. And honestly, it's really starting to work. And that's very contrary to how electric types are supposedly played. High special attacking, you know, high speed, and low health. But we are being bulky. All right, and here we go. Now he tears into flying. Not that big of a deal. Once again, we got a move called Extreme Speed. We can knock this Gyarados out real quick, and boom, we beat him on the second time around. Let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, I have just completed another set of 10 games, this time using Pink Urchin, Raikou, and Iron Hands. And well, I once again went 6-4. This is a result that should have me happy, but to be honest, I'm kind of upset because I wanted progress. I wanted 7-3. I wanted 8-2. Hell, man, even give me 10-0. Let's make this thing be over. But that's not what I got. At the end, Raikou and Magnezone were fairly equivalent in the terms of attack power, and I think in the end, that's what guided this result. So let's take a look at the next move, because we're going to shake things up a little bit, but it's a little risky, but I think the upside is potentially very high. So let's take a look. All right, everyone. So welcome Regieleki, or as the name is, Sparkles, to the all-electric team. We are going to be using this to replace Pink Urchin right down here. Unfortunately, Pink Urchin was incredible for this team. It really helped the Toxic Spikes, but I'm hoping there's a little bit more upside in Regieleki for attack. So we're going Thunderbolt, Thunder Cage, Terra Blast, and Extreme Speed. Extreme Speed is a move that I don't necessarily think I need on Regieleki, but I couldn't think of a more powerful attack that would be something that wasn't electric. Because quite frankly, if it's between having Extreme Speed or just another Thunderbolt kind of clone type move, I think I'll go for Extreme Speed. We got Terra Blast now, which is interesting as a normal type. And Thunder Cage is really what we're going to be looking at here, because this is a move that lasts 5 turns, it paralyzes the opponent, and it potentially does damage as well, I believe. So this is going to be the Toxic Spikes, and Regieleki from here on out is going to be our leading Pokemon. Actually, you know what? I'm going to make a quick move, and I'll update you in a second. Alright guys, so I swapped out Extreme Speed for Volt Switch, so I can use Thunder Cage, and then I have a great way to get out of battle and put in one of the big attacking Pokemon. That was what my change is, and I'll see you guys in our first game with these 3 men. I'm really hoping it goes okay. Alright guys, here we go into our very first game using the team of Regieleki, or Sparkles as the name is, Iron Hands, and Raikou. So we're going to start out with Thunder Cage. Even though it's not that effective, that's just the game plan we're going with. The opponent uses close combat and brings us to just under half health. I still have time to go for a little bit of a Volt Switch, bringing it below half health, and then I swap out to Iron Hands, who is obviously the main carry of this team. Close combat does very little, plus it lowers its defense, so I will absolutely take that. So here we go. I believe I use Drain Punch, and boom, take out the first Pokemon. Hey, and we gain a little bit of health, plus we're going to get our leftovers. That is the name of the game, baby. Iron Hands and just straight healing. Next up, we got this Latias here, and to be honest, this is a little bit more concerning to me. This is a pretty powerful dragon-type Pokemon, and it goes ahead and uses Psychic and really hurts Iron Hands. But hey, Ice Punch does over half its health very conveniently. At this time, I'm thinking, you know what? I kind of have to go for a Protect, because I'm going to need every bit of health I can get if I want to inch out and survive its next attack to potentially land another Ice Punch. Unfortunately, though, it doesn't even matter. And, well, that's the end of Iron Hands, sadly. But we bring in Regieleki and go for a Terra Blast, bring its health down to half, and unfortunately, there goes Regieleki. But it's okay, because we got Raikou, and we believe in Raikou with a quick Shadow Ball, takes out Latias, somehow outspeeds Latias. To be honest with you, I did not expect that. Our opponent has this, I believe, Shiny Fairy Eevee Evolution, a pretty cool Pokemon to have indeed. I go for a Thunderbolt, takes about a third of the health, sorry. A second takes another third, and well, we're going to take it out. And we're going to take this thing out using extreme speed. Pretty awesome game 1. Let's see how game 2 can go. All right. So going into game 2, our opponent has a Pachirisu. Kind of an interesting decision if you ask me. I use a Terra Blast. Take about a fifth of its health. Not too great, to be honest. But, well, at this point, I'm like, you know what? Let's just go for a few more Terra Blasts. Pachirisu isn't realistically going to do anything to Regieleki, and using Thunder Cage probably isn't worth it. Let's just force this one out and use Terra Blast as many times as we need to take out the first Pokemon. But I try to end on a Volt Switch. Unfortunately, it misses, but it does work that second time around. So we take out Pachirisu. And it's time to bring in Iron Hands, baby. You know how it is. Everyone already knows. Iron Hands is how we do things. And it's kind of interesting we ran into a Pinkurition here. The same Pokemon that we just took off the team. But hey, it doesn't do a lot compared to my Drain Punch. Except it keeps recovering, which is kind of a pain. As you guys know, I did have Recover on mine. But for some reason, it always died before the Recover would actually work. But we get it with Drain Punch right here. That's his second Pokemon gone. And guys, I have to tell you, this guy, I think he was just trolling with this team. He used Spiky Shield, which obviously is going to do some damage to me because I'm using a physical attack. But in the end, it doesn't really matter a whole lot. He can't keep using it. He's going to Terra into, Dragon? But at the end of the day, he knows this is the end when my Drain Punch it does over half his health. So it's just a matter of time here, and we just got to pound out this battle just like the Pachirisu at the end of the day. Guys, this challenge has honestly been a ton of fun so far, so if you're enjoying it, please hit that subscribe button. It would mean the world to me. With an Ice Punch, we take it down and win our second game. All right, now we're going into our third and a final showcase game for the Regieleki, Raikou, and Iron Hands team. And I have to tell you, going into this one, I was actually 9-0. So let's see what we can do. We get a Thunder Cage off on the Salamence, does substantial damage, and really works to hurting it. But it does get the Regieleki here down to only 1 health, unfortunately. It terraforms here into being a Steel type. Which, man, I'm hoping it's not a big deal. We get another Thunder Cage up, and we beat the Salamence. Dude, having incredible speed is so important because this Pokemon has been able to win so many fights it shouldn't have. It was at 1 HP against a Salamence that just terraformed. But unfortunately, the Raikou probably is the weakest move in this entire game with Quick Attack, but because I'm at 1 health, it does get me. Here we go with Iron Hands, and let's go for a Drain Punch right here because health regen. That's all that needs to be said. It goes for a quick Fairy type move with Play Rough, move priority. Don't know why he would use that, to be honest. His other moves are probably electric, so they're not going to be effective against Iron Hands. But you know what it is. What the heck? The Raichu knows Surf. I did not remember that one, to be honest. So there we go. We get a little bit more Drain Punch, as well as Leftovers. And let's go into his final Pokemon. We are one Pokemon away from completing this challenge, and it's Lapras. This should be very good for us. It goes for Sheer Cold. For people that don't know, it's a move that has a very low accuracy, but when it hits, it automatically kills. And he gets it off right here, killing our Iron Hands. This is a horrifying situation to be in, because 10 out of 10 times we should win this. But since this Pokemon knows a move that can just automatically feint whatever, it makes it a whole lot tougher. But luckily my Raichu has a ton of speed and takes out the Lapras. And ladies and gentlemen, this challenge is finally over. Guys, so I just finished another 10-game set, and this time I can finally tell you that I was victorious. I won 10 games without losing a single one. So the team that finally beat the challenge for me, thank God, was Regieleki, Iron Hands, and Raikou. Honestly, this was an incredibly powerful team. Regieleki is very, very fast. It absolutely outspeeded any Pokemon I could possibly face. So taking extreme speed off for Volt Switch was definitely something that was very worth doing, because I'm basically outspeeding every Pokemon anyway with literally any move, so why not? And Thunder Cage was another move here that made a massive difference. I could get this off at the start of games, and really it decimated people's first Pokemon. You got that first bit of damage off. Oftentimes it did like a quarter of their health bar, which is fantastic, and then it would drain away probably half their health by the time that the cage finally wore it off. Mind you, Regieleki did not normally last that long. It normally died to about the second Pokemon, but still, it was fantastic to see. And then Iron Hands would come out and just dominate, to be honest with you, using Protect, Leftovers, Drain Punch, and Ice Punch. I can't think of a time one of those moves didn't come in handy. A big moment for me was one of the Garchomp games that you saw. We were able to navigate that, terraforming into fighting to avoid the ground type moves, and then Ice Punch absolutely decimated that thing. It was crazy. In the end, though, I would say Sword Dance wasn't fully utilized 100%, so honestly, maybe leaving Earthquake would have been the better decision. But now let's talk a little bit about Raikou, because this is one that joined us a little late, but it was absolutely a beast. The moveset for this Pokemon, I believe, was Calm Mind, Thunderbolt, Shadow Ball, and Extreme Speed. Extreme Speed on Raikou, you saw it, came in clutch multiple times. Even just when it was the only attack that was effective in that one match, where, you know, the Poison Spikes almost had it, but we had to use Extreme Speed to finish them off. Calm Mind, obviously an extraordinary move for boosting special attack and special defense. Thunderbolt, obviously massive against Gyarados in the one game that we watched together. And Shadow Ball just came up big against all the Psychic types, to be honest with you. It was my only real move I had for them. Alright guys, and that just about wraps up the video. So I want to thank all of you for coming on this journey with me. I had a lot of fun, and I hope you did too. If you enjoyed, you know, please leave a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike. Honestly, you know, go for it. Leave a comment down below saying that I'm bad at the game. Do whatever. But hey, if you have any suggestions for things I could have did differently for the video or for the team itself, please leave it down below. It would mean a ton. And hey, if you enjoyed, please, it would mean a world if you would subscribe. If not, that's okay too, but I hope to see you back at some point, because we got some fun stuff coming up. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one, hopefully, if you're there.